Greetings builders, and welcome to my top 3 video, where every week I choose a topic and show you my favorite builds of it. And today's theme is for those who enjoy a little shocking. I'm talking about the amazing lightning builds. And if you wanna try any of those, you can find links for POBs and complete guides in the video description. Let's start taking a classic build to another level, the Archmage Arc Hierophant with the Templar class. This build stacks as much mana as possible to take advantage of the Archmage support gem that grants up to 19% of your mana as extra lightning damage. The skill of choice was the classic Arc that transforms many enemies for a great clear speed. And to make things more interesting, we're using Kitava's Curse and the Anathema Ring for a total of 6 curses on our enemies. To visit the pros of this build, I would start with its clear speed. Arc chains through many enemies and destroy entire packs of monsters with only one cast. You don't even need to aim. The boss damage is awesome as well. On big bosses we can use Crackling Lance for a destructive single target damage. It's just amazing. Now to visit the cons, I'll start saying that this build isn't cheap. It needs a few Divine Orbs to work properly. Another issue is that you must have extra mana in all pieces of equipment, and that might make the gearing process a little harder. Now talking about the budget, as mentioned before, this build isn't cheap. You need to invest at least 10 Divine Orbs to make it work. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipment that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold by other players. You only need 2 mandatory unique items for this build. The first and most important is the Kitava's Curse helmet that triggers located gems when you use at least 100 mana in one cast. These curses our enemies automatically. Next, we also need the Anathema Ring that causes our curse limit to be the same as our maximum power charges, in this case 6. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. We're just super fast and Arc is amazing for clearing big packs of monsters. You're just going to zoom through maps, killing everything without sacrificing your GPU in the process. The boss damage is also amazing, deserves 10 out of 10. Crackling Lance is just super strong and can destroy big bosses like they're nothing. For this survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. It not only have a big pool of life and energy shield, but also 50% of the damage is taken from mana before life. And as you know, we have a lot of mana on this build. We also hit enemies so many times per second that the instant leash causes your life to be full almost 100% of the time. Next we have the super popular Lightning Arrow Deadeye with the Ranger class. Even though Vengeance Cascade was nerfed, the introduction of the returning projectile support gem kept this build super fast and strong, which caused most of players to choose it. During last league, I released the Lightning Arrow guide that needed some expensive unique items, and this time I'm going to make it different. On this guide, you'll find 2 versions of this build, a budget and a complete one. Each one has its own POB and passive tree, so you can start this build even on a low budget and upgrade it later. To list the pros of this build, I'm not sure if I would start with its clear speed or boss damage, because both are amazing. This build is also not complicated to put together. I totally recommend you to try it out. Now to list the cons, I would say that this build is not very tanky. Even though you have some defensive layers, it's important to take advantage of your ranged attacks and stay far from danger. If you don't mind your position, you might die. About the budget, you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, I recommend investing around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your Atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. But if you go for the complete version, you need to invest at least 4 more divines. On the budget version, you don't need any mandatory unique item for this build. On the other hand, the complete version needs the Lionized Fall and the Thread of Hope unique jewels. They are expensive but grant a huge boost to your damage. For clear speed, I'll give it 10 out of 10. You fire many projectiles with high attack speed and those projectiles return to you, pierce enemies, bounce off walls and go everywhere. No one can survive that. The boss damage is also amazing and deserves 10 out of 10. Using 2 Val Lightning Arrows plus your ballistas on bosses will kill them so fast that you won't believe it. For this survivability, I'll give this build 8 out of 10. Even though you have armor, evasion, spell suppression and can kill enemies from a good distance, this build isn't very tanky. If you don't mind your position, you might die. Finally, in first place, here's the super strong, fast and satisfying Lightning Strike Trickster with the Shadow class. Lightning Strike is an awesome skill that used to be on top of the meta, but went down after a couple of nerfs. Now, with the new returning projectile support gem, it's back with more power than ever. To list the pros of this build, I would start with its clear speed. Besides a strong melee hit, Lightning Strike also creates many lightning projectiles that run on the floor, killing every enemy on its path. Besides that, this build also counts with the Trickster Ascendance to be super fast and tanky. It has 7 frames charges for extra damage and speed, and a lot of defensive layers. Now, to list the cons, the first thing that comes to mind is that this build needs a good elemental call to work properly, but don't worry, it's easy to buy one from other players. As for budget, this build is not expensive at all. You can get it destroying early in-game maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfort with advanced yellow maps, you need to invest around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. For clear speed, I'll give this one 10 out of 10. As mentioned before, you have 7 frames charges and a huge effective elusive that grants this build a lot of movement speed. Besides that, Lightning Strike creates many projectiles that run on the floor, exploding many enemies that aren't even close to you yet. The boss damage is also amazing and deserves 9 out of 10. With the new returning projectile support gem, you deal a lot more damage to bosses. This one is an awesome boss killer. For the survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This build has over 100,000 effective HP because of high armor, evasion, spell suppression, fortify, and even a trickster buff that causes you to take 40% less damage. Above all, you are immune to freeze and stuns. And that's it for today, guys. What did you think about those lightning builds? Please don't forget to tell me your thoughts in the comments and leave a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing day, and don't forget to keep building!